Going live now, and okay. Going live now. Oh,
we are live.
We are live.
YouTube. Don't know what I look like on Facebook. No, we're not doing Instagram, but we're doing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. No, Periscope. So, hey, everyone. I feel like we haven't seen each other in forever. How's it going?
Look, it's been a crazy time, right? So much has gone on over the past, I would say, weeks that we've gone live last time. Of course, since the last FlexCon event in May, it was wonderful. We took a short hiatus. Initially, we were going month to month. That was a lot.
It was a lot, people. I love y'all, but between the jobs board, the learning portal, it was a lot. Lot.
Definitely. But we're happy to be here today. I am Jabril Suleiman, founder of Incluzion.
I'm Eb. I'm COO, the person that just does a whole lot of stuff.
Look, this is amazing. I know we just jumped in because, hey, look, everyone who's watching right now, you're already family and friends to us. So yes. I feel like we don't have to just do a crazy introduction. But just for everyone who doesn't know, of course, this is FlexCon. This is the July edition of FlexCon. FlexCon started out of COVID, right? It started out as a way to really leverage virtually presenting informative platforms to remote professionals, to the remote professionals that are out there. Just learning how to manage the soft skills that are needed in order to continue to earn money, to generate revenue as flexible professionals that are out there, right? And right. So I'm excited to bring this to the third time to everyone that's out there. I mean, Eb, what do we have in store?
So we have Donald Jenkins, we have Hawa Fayed. I hope I said her last name right because I know how that is. We have Precious from the brand table. Definitely looking forward to the conversations. And of course, we have our little segment. Don't know what we call that yet. It's just talk about inclusion and all that other fun stuff. So really looking forward to these conversations because we do know that we have been gone for, 2 months now? Has it been that long?
It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months.
You are quite fast though, because I remember when COVID first started, like in March. Like, what happened? Like, really?
Look, it's been a lot. We've launched the learning platform. We've launched our jobs board. Of course, we're pushing the freelance marketplace on more and more, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that we've been doing as an organization with Incluzion. We brought on a few different additional team members. We've coordinated with additional just experts out there that are passionate about what we're doing. And so,
70. When I say 70 online, I'm like, goodness gracious. And we haven't even finished vetting people yet. So right now we have 70 people in the pipeline to put on our learning platform. And I'm really excited about that. Not to cut you off, but yeah, I really got excited about that.
Look, these are instructors that want to create courses around the soft skills that are needed to operate as a remote or flexible professional. And it was only right for us to really bring out the platform that allows that to happen, allows them to generate revenue for themselves, to get their expertise out there. I mean, it was something that it was a byproduct because Eb, all you were doing was you wanted to put out courses, right? We're like, hey, let's go ahead and create the platform behind that, something like a Udemy, right?
So this is how it happens. Every time we have a team meeting, we have a brand new project that we have to roll out because it's like, yes, we have to do that now. And not to say that we're looking at the shiny bells and whistles of stuff, but we see that it's going to be very imperative for us to roll certain things out really at that moment for our community. And those that are finding out about us, you don't have to be a part of the community to go through the learning courses. I mean, it's open to anyone. So we'll discuss that a little bit more, but really excited and I'm just ready to go.
Yeah. Look, let's get the first guest up, Mr. Donald Jenkins.
Yeah.
I'm going to pop out here. Well, I'm going to add him in and I'm going to pop out. And I look forward to hearing an informative conversation.
How are you?
Hello, Ebony.
Good to have you. Good to have you. I know that you are very busy, even in the midst of what's going on, which is excited because even though people are like, well, has your business slowed down? I can say no, mine has not. And I know yours hasn't either. So to everyone that's out there, Donald Jenkins is a master purposed coach. And I say purposed because he was purposed for this, but he is a master purpose development coach. And he is also the founder of Purpose Development Institute. And I'm a byproduct of that because y'all know I live all things purpose. So, Donald, I know you have a lot to share. I'm going to jump off, and then I'll jump right back in when it's time for us to do our Q&A, and we'll talk to you in a few.
Awesome. First of all, I want to say, Ebony, I really appreciate the invite for allowing me to be a part of this very powerful vision. And just being here today, listen to you and Mr. Jabril kind of give me a little idea as to the magnitude of your vision. And I love it. It's a tremendous vision. Yeah. And here at the Purpose Development Institute, we're excited to support what you all are doing. Well, so today, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said thank you. And you know, we don't think small. So anything we do is big or go home.
Yeah, y'all thinking big. So congrats on that. And again, I'm just excited to be on here to play a small part with all the other professionals that are going to be coming up. And today I want to talk about making a transition from a business plan to a purpose plan. I know many of us in the entrepreneur freelance space, you know, we're very familiar with the business plan. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time just talking about that, but I want to just talk about the importance of making that transition. So I'm going to pretty much focus on three objectives in my talk. I'm going to give you a personal testimony of my purpose plan. And then I'm going to give you a snapshot of what the business arena is talking about when it comes to purpose and the role that purpose play in any business. And then we're going to talk about how to discover the difference between the two, the difference between the purpose plan and the business plan. And then lastly, we're going to give you an opportunity to put you on the path to create your purpose plan. So let me just start with a very important testimony, my testimony. You all know how it is. Your story means a lot. And my story basically depicts what the purpose plan is all about. In fact, the Purpose Development Institute is a product of the purpose plan. And if it wasn't for the purpose plan, I'm telling you right now, the Purpose Development Institute would not even exist. Several years ago, I found myself end up being homeless, broke, busted and disgusted after ending a 20-year marriage. And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for my purpose plan, I would have threw in the towel when it comes to the vision of the Purpose Development Institute. Now, a little short blurb about the Purpose Development Institute. We are a think tank here in Atlanta, and we've spent a considerable amount of time, you know, almost 30 years and well over 20,000 hours of understanding the deficiencies in human development and growth. So we're going to see how all of that play in regards to being a freelancer or entrepreneur, because that's what we do here at the Purpose Development Institute. That's been my passion for quite some time. And again, like I said, if it wasn't for the purpose plan, then the Purpose Development Institute would not even exist. So let me kind of go rewind and take you back and bring you up to date real quick as to how Purpose Development Institute was born and how the purpose plan was actually a part of that process. Several years ago, I had an opportunity to make a transition from corporate America into the corporate training and development space, the freelance space. Yeah, I was in corporate America as a electronic engineer. You know, I program robots for a living, and I found out that I like working with people. So I took a leap, you know, and I took a leap at a crazy time, actually, back in 2001, right after 9/11. I began to take this leap, you know, into the entrepreneur space. Well, I was in that space well before then, but I took a leap at a time that people probably wouldn't have been, you know, had the courage to take a leap during that time. And things were going good, you know, up until, you know, the bottom fell out of the economy. And that's when I began to struggle in my business. I began to struggle in my space. My marriage that I had at the time for 20 years was beginning to tank and go rock bottom. And it put me in a very difficult place. And during that same period of time, I also had invented a product that sold in Walmart nationwide. And if it wasn't for me having, again, the purpose plan, then I wouldn't have been able to survive all the rejections that I had to go through to get my product, in 3,000 stores, across the country. So when I'm talking about the purpose plan, I'm talking about a personal place of how it allowed me to sustain myself in business. One of the things that I always say as a mantra, for my business, and that is that the degree of success in the future is dependent upon your degree of purpose in the present. And one of the beautiful part about the purpose plan is that it allows you to have a strong degree of purpose in that moment. And as you can see, I faced moments in my business that, was like a roller coaster. If you've been an entrepreneur for a considerable amount of time, you understand the ebbs and the flows that you go through in business. Some days are good, some days are great. And I had plenty of those days. So it was my degree of purpose in those moments when many people would throw in the towel, that allowed me to experience the degree of success that my company is able to experience right now, even in this time, in this season of COVID-19 and all the stuff that we are challenged with in this area of our life. So even during that time of my patent, I had to overcome 500 rejections from companies that said, you know what, this is not a good product. We don't think that it's going to work. So I just kept going simply because of being able to be in control of that degree of purpose in that moment. And it allowed me to find one company that said yes. And when they said yes, we had it manufactured in China, and the rest is history. We sold in Walmart nationwide. So again, I can attest to the fact that the purpose plan is extremely important. Now let's come back real quickly to me being homeless, broke, busted, and disgusted after ending a 20-year marriage. And I can truly say that, it was a purpose plan that allowed me to transform my failed marriage into a profitable business model to help me help other couples, because I've actually built an entire program around training couples in that area. Got remarried again to my beautiful wife, Dr. Lily Jenkins here, who is my partner at the Purpose Development Institute. And the reason why I'm telling you that story is simply because of my purpose plan, my plan to control my degree of purpose in critical moments in my life that made me want to throw in the towel. And you can see how you're going to have and probably have already had challenges in your business, and understanding how to control that degree of purpose is extremely important. So the purpose plan was involved in me pioneering the Purpose Development Institute, because there's been a lot of challenges in trying to pioneer this business right after 2001, 9/11 incidents, the bottom tanked out of, the economy in 2008, so I had to go through that period, of being challenged with trying to get into corporation to continue to do my training business at that level. And if it wasn't for the purpose plan, I'm telling you, I would have threw in the towel and I would have given up, because of just the psychological, the mental stamina that was needed during that time. So the story continues. And that's what the Purpose Development Institute, that's what we are about. That's the reason why we have become that think tank to help entrepreneurs, freelancers, corporations, in so many different areas of our life to be able to incorporate this very powerful business component in regards to their business. So it's a very powerful position to be in. And I want to make sure that I can capture the business community. What are the business community saying about the importance of purpose in business? Here's a gentleman that I'm very familiar with. He's one of I call him my purpose partner. He's actually the founder of an organization called the Bright House here in Atlanta, Georgia, where he performs consulting to major corporations. And one of the things that he said, He said, my goal is to align companies with higher purpose, to become part of a vanguard of visionaries who would transform society through work and business. Here's another thought by a young lady who used to be the executive vice president of the SunTrust Bank here in Atlanta. If you don't know anything about the SunTrust Bank, they are the ones that pretty much funded Coca-Cola in the early stages of them beginning to bring that brand out of the ground. And this is what she said, and this is important for freelancers. Make sure that you take copious notes with this one. She said that purpose drives profits, meaning makes money. I'm gonna say it again. She said purpose drives profits, meaning makes money. Companies have souls. The challenge is to find that soul, define that purpose, and begin leading your organization with this as the core of everything. That's what purpose development is about. This is what the business industry is saying when it comes to the role that purpose play in building your business or scaling your business, because you are the soul of your company. You see, every company has a soul. And I tell all my corporate clients is the fact that the people that are working for your organization, they are the ones who captures the soul of that organization. So as a freelancer, guess what? That's typically you, and you're the only one that captures that part of your business. So it's important for you to understand how to put yourself in a position to harvest the energy of purpose within your soul, because I can truly attest to the fact that that was the reason how I was able to survive the things that I survived in pioneering the Purpose Development Institute, was being able to harvest the energy of purpose. And that's what a purpose plan will allow you to do. It gives you a blueprint on how to harvest that energy of purpose on a personal level so that you can maintain the right mental stamina that you need in your business, and understand how to be able to scale your business in regards to sales, marketing, brand recognition, all those things. It breaks out into all of those areas. Remember my mantra that I said, your degree of purpose in the future is dependent upon your degree. Your degree of success in the future is dependent upon your degree of purpose in the present. So your degree of purpose is extremely important. And that's what your purpose plan does. A business plan is a very powerful tool, but it doesn't give you control over the most important resource in your business, and that is purpose capital. See, I understand now that when there's no real capital, purpose capital will continue to drive your business when there's no real capital. And you know how it is in the freelance economy. Sometimes the capital is good and sometimes the capital might not be so good. You know, we're waiting on the next gig. Well, that's when you really need that purpose capital to be able to come in to continue to drive your activity, to stay in the game until that next gig, that next opportunity come along, you know, in your business. So having a purpose plan is extremely, extremely important. I want to read another thought. This is a thought by an Emory University professor. His name is Rick Gilkey. This is what he said. He said, people are not motivated by the bottom line. It's about the human factor, and purpose is the driver. It's what stirs our soul and inspires us to do great things over a sustained period of time. And as freelancers, we want to be great over a sustained period of time. In fact, you have to be great over a sustained period of time. And having a purpose plan allows you to show up every day to be great, even when you don't feel like it, even when the conditions and the circumstances are not celebrating who you are in your business and what you have to offer. That purpose plan allows you to show up in your greatness every day. And when you're in the, I told someone the other day, I said, listen, when I work the job, you know, I can go to work and I can perform 60% effort in my workplace performance and still get paid 100% at the end of the week or at the end of the month. But when you're a freelancer, if you do that, you perform at 60%, you might come out with getting paid 10%. So it's important that you understand how to control that degree of purpose so that your performance can be at a high level at all times. Because remember, you are the soul, the heart and the soul of your business. So those thoughts are very important, as you continue to go forth and understand, how important this is in building your business. So a good plan will get you started in business, but a purpose plan will keep you in business. I'm going to say it again. A good business plan will get you started, but a purpose plan will keep you in business. And I can attest to that. Purpose development is the product of a purpose plan, because I had a great business plan, but the conditions changed around my business plan. And as the conditions changed, the purpose plan became even more important for me to be able to continue to drive my business at a high level. So you can certainly understand the importance of a purpose plan. And if y'all have to excuse me, I meant to get my charger, and I do not want this to cut off. It take me 1 second. I know this is kind of out of the box, but give me 1 second so I do not lose my feed here.
So, I'm excited because we talk about what I like to talk about, purpose.
I was like, hold on now. Is he one of your secret business partners, considering your naming
Actually, it's very interesting how Donald and I met. We met through church, and it was initially me going through another program that he had for ministers and leaders, and just folding over through that, started the program. Then I actually got into his other purpose coaching program. And again, me coming out of SunTrust 3 years later, and everything just ties in together. So definitely. So Donald,
I apologize.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. So really quick, because you're definitely talking about the purpose plan, the purpose deficit and stuff like that. How would you encourage someone that is striving to really hone in on their purpose, but in a time like this, we really kind of skim over the whole mental health type thing. So how does someone combat that or overcome that to really say, yes, I'm really going to push through, seek what it is. And yes, you have a great story, a great testimony, but right now it's not to dumb down what you've been through, but in a time like this, how can someone really get a place of focusing on purpose?
Yeah, well, Ebony, what we do here at the Purpose Development Institute. We have the coaching program, and one of the things that we help individuals overcome is purpose deficit disorders.
Right.
Purpose deficit disorder is the thing that really challenges us in times like this, psychologically, mentally. And in other words, what happens is that it changes us to average. Mm-hmm. And that could be average in regards to sustaining the right mental health, in this particular season of our business. And one of the things that I encourage individuals during this season is that, number one, you need to get your purpose IQ checked.
Yep.
Because if you don't have your purpose IQ checked, you don't understand the most important resource that's going to give you that stability that you need in this season of your life. One of the things that I've had an opportunity to do, Ebony, is that I've been following the research out of the Chicago, the Rush Alzheimer Institute out of Chicago. And one of the things they talked about was the healing properties of purpose when it comes to psychologically, mentally, and allowing us to confer healing in our body. So as freelancers, this is very important because it allows us to really mitigate the stress that we are experiencing during this season of our life, where things might seem to be secure one day and the next day is not secure. So that's why I would start, is to help them understand how can we, number one, test the purpose IQ, and then give them a blueprint on how to show them the active role of purpose when it comes to building those parameters that's going to keep them in good mental health.
Yeah, what we've been discussing a lot in the community is learning how to pivot. So the beginning of July, we rolled out a 4-week upskill boot camp And we're going from how to attract your ideal clients to how to become we're not calling it virtual assistant anymore, because I'm teaching web designers how to become a virtual specialist. And, exactly for this time like this, because certain jobs just aren't available. But when you have people saying they want a virtual assistant, in theory, they really want someone with the skills that know how to do certain things of people within our community. So once they have that purpose plan in place, what do you then recommend? Because you and I both know it's not just about the plan, it's also about carrying it out. And to properly carry it out, you have to have tools and resources in place. So what do you suggest for that?
To carry out the purpose plan?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the purpose plan, what it breaks out into, it breaks out into activity that continue to allow you to sustain a high level of performance, whether it be sales, recruiting, building your brand, all those things, because those are the day-to-day activities that we have in our business, that we have to run our business. And if you're not prepared psychologically in those areas, then it's going to be difficult to engage at a high level. So in the purpose plan, we show you how to translate that into building those parameters that's going to give you that stamina that you need to engage in those levels of activities that you have to do every day for your business. I do it every day. I'm doing LinkedIn business. I'm making phone calls. I'm doing everything, but it requires a high degree of purpose to push through, those seasons where the resistance and see, let me say this, Ebony, I think this is important. And it's going to kind of wrap up what you said.
Mm-hmm.
The way we define purpose here at the Purpose Development Institute is when the intent to do something outweighs the resistance to do it.
Yep.
So what happens with the purpose plan is that it gives you the resources to continue to add weight to your intentions to do it. So whatever resistance that you are experiencing in whatever that activity is, you're able to overcome it and push through it psychologically, physically, everything. So.
Yeah. And so two things, because I've been telling everyone in the community that even though they're freelancers, they're their own business owner. And I'm glad you've been saying, you're a business, even though you're a freelancer. And also from a remote worker standpoint, I say that they're in their own business as well, because you're still working for another company, but they are also building up their brand. They're building up their skill sets and everything else. So a lot of people may think that, I have to find my purpose. And you have a great way of saying, no, you're not finding your purpose. You're working on the purpose deficit. As you said, you're not finding it. And also people think that, it's one of this and one of that, when really it does have something to do with character. It does have something to do with your everyday habits. It has a lot to do with a whole lot of other stuff. And when I first went through your program, I just found that intriguing to say, even though I knew some things, it was like, yeah, that does make sense. No, that makes more sense. So someone that really isn't in tune with what purpose is from a percentage standpoint, and I know that you remember this because it's like you can shoot it off right then and there. Can you break that down for people?
What those percentages are?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say this is, especially as freelancers, it's not so much as finding your purpose as it is hacking into purpose.
Right.
We have to hack into, in other words, it's already there. It's one of the most important resources that we as entrepreneurs and freelancers have. So we have to build parameters to hack into purpose, to leverage this resource to run our business. So at the Purpose Development Institute, we broke the percentages down. In other words, we broke purpose down into 4 subcategories. And this is going to be awesome because the first subcategory that we talk about is your gifts and talents. Mm-hmm. And as a freelancer, that's important because you are offering your gifts and your talents to that organization. But that only constitutes 17% of your purpose. And many people think that that's 100% of their purpose. And I tell people all the time, why are you spending 100% of your time working on something that's only 17%? What about the other 83%?
Right.
Because the other 83% determines who you are, what you can become, how you control the degree of purpose, the best version of you. And as a freelancer, we always want the best version of who we are to be able to show up every day, every opportunity that we engage on. So those other three subcomponents consist of your philosophy of purpose. In other words, what are you doing to build a strong philosophy of purpose? Many people never work on their philosophy of purpose, but you know all too well that at the Purpose Development Institute, that's what we do. We have to do that. You have to build up your philosophy of purpose. That's where you produce your purpose capital at. You know, that constitutes 20% of your purpose. Then you have what we call the big three purpose questions. Now, those are critical. In other words, there are three questions that we all ask. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And how can I get better at doing what I'm doing? Those are the big three purpose questions. Well, guess what? That's only 10% of your purpose, but your character is 53% of your purpose. It's the largest percentage of your purpose. So it's that intuitive side of purpose that as freelancers, we have to spend more time on that 83% than we do the 17%.
Right. Right. So going forward, and again, I wish that we had 3 days to talk about this because I can live and breathe right here. But I know that we have a short amount of time. So going forward, how can we really support one another in this? Because sometimes it is the taboo of, and in some instances, I see purpose as a taboo topic sometimes because it's, you know, living the dream of what your grandfather had for you, living the dream of what your mom wanted you to do. When someone is really saying, no, I really want to do this. And we have a group that has been reading, you know, Who's in Your Room? And it literally discussed, you know, who told you that you couldn't do something, or who told you on the playground that you were ugly and you couldn't do this. How do you talk to those people that have really been bound by the opinions or by the life plans that someone else has put on them to say, no, you really have the right to pursue purpose, to live in your purpose? Because even now, people that are 40, 50 years old has lived a life that really wasn't meant for them to live because someone else put it on them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. We all are products of our culture. You know, whether it be, you know, growing up in a home with parents that say, hey, look, you got to go to school. You have to work for someone all the days of your life. You can never be an entrepreneur. You can never make it as a freelancer, whatever the case it might be. It's a product of our culture, you see. But what we don't understand is that this is important, Ebony. There's an intersection where the soul meets the culture.
Right.
And people don't realize we live at that intersection every day, because if purpose is not set free in the soul, then we increase the risk of becoming a product of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
But when I understand how to set purpose free in my soul, then it minimizes the risk of me becoming a product of my culture. And that's what many people are struggling at, you know, of being chained to whatever it is that they're chained, the mindsets and things
right.
that they're challenged with. We're really moving out into the freelance or entrepreneur space, is that it starts right there. You know, we call it your super identity. Your super identity comes at that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to get a chance to know what that part of you is all about, and then begin to develop that. Because I'm going to say this quote, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. There's a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. I don't know if any of, you know, some of your listeners may have heard of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is one of the fathers of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer living now, but he's a guru in this space. And one of the things that he said was, he said, if you work hard on your job, you make a good living.
Right.
But if you work hard on you than you do on your job, you make a fortune. And as freelancers, we need to really understand that when we work hard on us, purpose development,
right,
that's where our fortune is hidden at.
Right. So Jabril, I see that you jumped back in. You have any questions?
You know, I do. I mean, and you know, and I know a lot of the focus of the talk has been around the freelancer, and one of the things I do want to reiterate is that, you know, we're supporting remote professionals of all types now, especially post-COVID. And so I want you to talk about the purpose of that professional that has been thrown into the turmoil of post, or during COVID, and in regards to their purpose now, their purpose, even working from home, still trying to connect to the office, trying to connect to peers, trying to connect with, and I know this is going to flow over into some of the EI talk that Hawa is going to be explaining as well, but just talk about that real quick as far as these remote professionals that are out there now that have been thrown into turmoil. They don't know what's going on. How do they find their purpose based on your expertise?
Well, the main thing is staying in control of the narrative. That's critical, because a lot of time when we are, going into the office, it plays such an intricate part to our psyche that allow us to connect the dots on so many levels. So now that whole environment has changed, the landscape has changed, but the narrative is still the same. You see, so what we do here at the PDI is that we have a way of showing them how to keep the narrative leaning toward purpose, because that hadn't changed. One of my rabbi mentors told me this. He said, the more that things change, the more there's a need for things that never change. Mm-hmm. So the need for purpose right now, in regards to leveraging the strength that comes from purpose, that need never changed. It was strong when you was going into the workplace, and it's strong now that you are a remote worker. And now it's time for you to shift. And I hate this. I don't hate to say this. It's just a reality that we're all having to face. You got to develop new skills.
Right.
This is the new skill set. Mm-hmm. All right. We're in a new environment. Well, guess what? It's going to require new skill sets in this environment as well.
That plays into exactly what we have been promoting with Incluzion, around, first of all, of course, managing now this new way of work, right? This is a way of work that was emerging anyway, but people just kind of jumping into the pool, or they're walking into the pool versus people getting thrown into the pool, right? It's two different experiences there. At two different levels of shock, involved with that, right? And so that's one of the things that the conversations that we've been having, it is understanding that, hey, with this shock, you have to learn how to swim, right? And there's different people that are going to learn at different levels, right? And there's different aspects to swimming. I keep the analogy going, right? But that's just different aspects of skill sets and upskilling that needs to happen in order for people to prosper as professionals working in a distributed fashion and a work from home fashion and a remote fashion, right? Even if it's as freelancers, even if it's as independent contractors or consultants and so forth, right? So that really flows into what we're trying to do as far as that goes. And just for everyone out there, this is what we like, because these are the conversations that we like to have that shows alignment in so many different ways for people like yourself who are learning. There are companies out there that align with your values and align with what you need to learn, and they're teaching you what you don't know. And no, I just wanted to get that blurb out there.
That's fine. Yeah. And again, I have studied under PDI, and Jabril knows it. I always ask him, what's the purpose? And he's like, well, I'm like, it has to have a purpose. So it does. And that's where I live. That's where Donald, you live, and Jabril lives there as well, with, all of our stories and testimonies. But I have to go back to that one person that is working the 9 to 5. Don't lose hope. All of us have come out of a 9 to 5. All of us has been in a place of what now? And one thing of what I would say is, in the midst of you working your purpose plan, reassess your skills. Like we've all been saying, what skill sets do you bring to the table? If you know how to create spreadsheets, you may just say, okay, you were working in the accounting department, but you can also now become a bookkeeper for a small business owner. And you may say, oh, I don't have the degree for that, but you're still getting paid for that during your 9 to 5 to do it. And it's just, again, the mindset shift of that we're so keeping ourselves in this box that, and this is the reason why I tell people that I deal with to just do away with the title. Forget the title. What skills do you have? Because the title locks us into that one-track mind, and it's like, oh, I have to. No, what does your skill set say that you can do? So I'm really excited about what else is coming out of PDI. Donald, let us know what else you have going on. I know that you have a free assessment that we're going to send out to everyone that is viewing and also a part of our community. We would definitely love to have you back. We're always talking to see how we can connect on things of what makes sense. And I'm pretty sure that we'll come up with what makes sense next. But tell us what you have going on, what you're offering, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I want to offer free discovery calls. And what they can do is they can go to our website, www.pdiatl.com/events. And they can look at our calendar and they can schedule some time with me to participate, because we talked about the purpose plan, but what does that look like in rolling that out for you as a freelancer? We didn't go into those details because of time constraints, but I want to make sure that I can spend time one-on-one with everyone to give them what does that look like for them to begin to create the purpose plan. One of the things that, can I say this real quickly, and it's going to kind of close it out. A few years ago, we actually were interviewed by my wife was involved with Sage. I don't know if you all are familiar with Sage. It's the largest software management firm from the UK. They have an office here in Atlanta, and they wanted to interview us about our purpose plan. So we did, and they were so excited about it that they took the purpose plan and blasted it out to all 6 million of their members. And here's what they said about the purpose plan. And it's critical. It says that many people might claim that keeping your eye on the prize will make you succeed in the business world. However, keeping your eye on the purpose will propel you forward rather than dangling a proverbial carrot in front of you. And we want to make sure that, we're able to help individuals understand what does that process look like, so they can connect with us at that website.
That'll work. And we have been posting it everywhere. So we are live: YouTube, LinkedIn, Periscope, Facebook. So everyone is seeing you right now. And do tell your better half that I do see her purpose when she's posting her shoes and handbags on Instagram, and I'm loving them. So,
I'm not going to tell her that, because that's going to give her fuel to continue to do it.
No, but the cool thing is, and I know she says that she has a vision board for her stuff, and I'm like, I'm loving it. Like, she says, I had this on the vision board and I got it today. I am so loving that. She has
I'll tell her.
She has a how she is spending her money, and I am so loving it.
Awesome.
So thank you, Donald. Thank you. We will definitely be in touch with whatever else you have going on. Please do feel free to share it with us, and we, have no problem with sharing it with our community, and we'll definitely be in touch to see how else we can partner up with all things purpose.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Jabril, my pleasure meeting you, sir. We'll have to circle back after this, and I always like to know, who is that guy? He got on the screen, the dude Jabril.
That dude.
I want to know who the dude is.
There's a whole story behind that. We won't get into it.
There's a lifetime series about his life. I can tell you that right now.
Gotcha. I appreciate it, everyone.
One more time. I'm going to post it again, but let's post your website address one more time.
It's www.pdiatl.com, and the calendar is /events.
Right. Yes. So Erica, I did put it in there. Hi, Erica. Nice to see you. Hi, Bernard. Hi, everyone.
Good deal. Thanks
for that. Y'all have an awesome day.
Same to you. So, what's next?
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I know, but we don't have enough time to talk about stuff. That's why I'm like, this needs to be a 3-day event. For our 1-year anniversary, we're going to do a 3-day event. Kid you not.
Look, I think that we should. We're going to grow to that point.
Yes, we are.
Woo! Because we're doing a lot, right? So,
yes,
we're going to have to bring on some additional events coordinators. So we're going to have to, because you're transitioning.
We are now accepting resumes because I have now moved into another position. I'll let Real make that announcement.
Look, I'll make this announcement right now. Eb is moving into the role of COO of Incluzion. I mean, she has been great from the beginning. There's a situation where basically she reached out last year. I don't know how I missed the email. I wish I could have connected with her earlier. We connected in 2020. So 2020 has been great for me in Incluzion. It's so many things happening, but so we are moving, she's moving over into as an executive team member for Incluzion and also, handling many of the things that are around the learning platform as well. She's been kicking that into overdrive. So that clears up some. We need to bring on team members.
Yes.
We want team members on board.
And I see a few in the chats already. So we'll definitely be reaching out to you. Thanks, Erica. Yeah, you're going to be on the team too.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of great comments here in the no questions, a lot of comments.
Right. Loving it. So who do we have next?
Okay, and let me kick Donald all the way out the studio there. We have Hawa. Fayed on with it.
Calmest person ever. She's like the woosah.
Yeah, I was not always this way, so it has taken me some time. I guarantee you that.
Understand. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, and I really appreciate you guys having me here, and I'm really excited. I mean, Donald was really touching on some powerful stuff, because when we do a lot of our mentorship, we are always having conversations around understanding what your purpose is and vision is, and oftentimes also, especially within the tech space, we always talk about being able to cast the vision. It's something that's extremely important. So it was a great opportunity to really listen to what he has going on. So we're excited about just being a part of this.
Well, I'm excited about what you're going to talk about, because you're talking about something else that I love, emotional intelligence. We kind of have that as a taboo conversation as well, too, especially in corporate America, when we are dealing with teammate engagement and stuff like that. So I totally know what it means to be in a remote work situation and emotional intelligence is not touched on. So I'm going to drop off and I'll let you and Jarrell have this conversation.
Amazing. Thank you, Ed.
We met online on social media, and we had a great conversation. And one of the things that during that conversation, I was like, we have to get her onto a FlexCon, right? We have to get you on as a speaker, because I mean, especially when you talk about emotional intelligence and some of the things that you've implemented in your company, the technologies you've implemented. Before I get too deep into this, just give a brief overview and introduction of yourself as the CEO.
Absolutely. So I am CEO of Queens Inspire Kings. We are a staffing and professional development firm. We predominantly focus on technology. We initially had started within the contingency workforce space, but we evolved and were much more predominantly focused on C-level positions or anything from managerial up. We do a lot of direct hire. We do a lot of professional development, and we work very heavily within the cannabis sector. It is a frontier market, and it has been very, very good to us, especially when we have this conversation around diversity. When we look at the numbers within that particular sector right now, it is rather abysmal, and making sure that those of us from Black and Brown communities are having access to these conversations and in these boardrooms, is a very critical component of why we kind of moved into that sector. And as far as what we do as a professional development firm, we've always been focused on women of color. It was a very large dialogue for us community-wise around economic access when it comes to women. My father's originally from North Sudan, South Egypt, and one of the big things that we discuss is how women are able to provide for themselves, for their families, and how a lot of times the situations and circumstances that they find themselves in has a lot to do with economic accessibility. So being able to make sure that you are able to care for your family, that you have the ability to kind of withstand some of these challenges that women, and especially as Black women, that we face globally. These are conversations that a lot of times are had out of context, because I find that in order for us to be able to really advance the dialogue, we need to understand what are some of the core problems that are hindering women from being able to advance. So we started kind of out of that. I also had, for myself personally, my first marriage, I came out of a very bad domestic violence situation. And for a lot of the conversations that I had with women who have also been survivors of those types of circumstances, one of the reasons that you find that women will not create an exit strategy has a lot to do with their ability to access resources from financial standpoint. And these are things that we find oftentimes can really start to empower women in their own personal journey, and giving them the agency to be able to advance, right? And so the beautiful thing about technology, and especially within contingency workforces and remote work and contract work, and we do a lot of contingency staffing as well. However, most of that opportunity that we wanted to create and building in very similar, and we had this conversation, making sure that there's skills training that can be deployed virtually from anywhere. It is extremely important for women to be able to access that. So that's been the mission as far as from an impact perspective. So we work very heavily on candidate development. So as much as we have our clients and our Fortune 100, Fortune 500 clients, and then we have a few international clients, and we work, internally with their HR and restructuring their teams and using these psychometric assessments to do so. A lot of what we really try to focus on is the candidate development side, and we work very heavily within our HBCU network to do that.
Amazing introduction. You put it all out there. This is. I remember the last conversation we had was so amazing, and you delved into, really building up, providing those upskillings, provided that analysis of a candidate and how they fit into a position. How has that changed since COVID? How has that changed? And also just specifically, and I know you talk about for the remote worker, and more so you work on permanent staff, but because a lot of permanent staff is remote, how does it change in that dynamic as well?
Absolutely. One of the biggest reasons that I think that we've experienced a lot of success since COVID, because managing remote workers is challenging, right? And we know that this is a challenge that a lot of companies, they were not prepared for. They did not really understand what it would look like. And from a management perspective, or from a C-level position, how are you really motivating your team, and how are you maintaining? My sister works for a fairly large company, and they had a lot of issues surrounding worker engagement and surrounding team building and just mental health and all of these things that were arising. And as we know, if this is something that, even if you don't look at it from a social impact perspective, it's directly connected to your ROI, right? So worker retention, worker engagement, these things cost large corporations billions of dollars every year, right? And it's one of those components during COVID that was so critical in order for these companies to really be able to function effectively. And it's also important with the remote worker that they're getting the resources that they need to really be able to manage their emotions, their day, their time, their families, all of the different components that go into what it means to work from home, from your home office, and just the different components that can go into maintaining your mental health. And, for me, especially coming from an East African background, like, this is conversations that we never really had. Mental health is becoming a little bit more forward within the Black community, but I find that it has taken a lot of time, and it's still continuing to take a lot of time to have a lot of these discussions. So for us, it's been a benefit with COVID, but we've also recognized that the stress that it has put on people it's not so much that it has created new stress. It's more like it's magnified and exposed the things that maybe we weren't particularly coping with well, right? And so I find that that's been more of the situation and circumstance than anything else, right? Is that it almost highlighted problems that a lot of companies or small businesses or once again, freelancers and contractors have been dealing with, because I think that sometimes we don't take our personal inventory and we don't take the time to really understand the importance of our team and our support networks within the corporate environment. This is something that I find is a little bit counterintuitive within American culture. And, and that's fine. It's just something that I think is different. I think it's something that coming from, a continental African background is that community mentality or that understanding of the support system that you need in order to be effective, in order to, to really thrive. And of course, a lot of that is by necessity in some of these other foreign countries. But I do think that it's an important component here, especially for us to really engage as a community and engage those types of support networks.
Right. Yeah, and let's take it one step back, though. Define, what is your definition because of emotional intelligence? We talk about, mental health. There's a few pieces in that. Just give a brief background for those who may not completely understand what emotional intelligence is and how do you address it?
Absolutely. So when we discuss with emotional intelligence, right? So there's a particular way that we approach emotional intelligence, because we feel that not only can it influence how you feel about the environment around you and how you manage your emotions, it's also about how you experience other people's emotions and how you affect the emotional state of others, right? So there's not necessarily good or bad. A lot of times when we're looking at these profiles, we're actually looking at different components of who you are that may fit better into the circumstances and positions and the roles that you're looking to play. Now, for those of us also that have maybe come from vulnerable communities or disenfranchised backgrounds or a lot of trauma, that can also influence the way that we approach everything that we do. I personally, due to my upbringing and due to certain experiences, I perform extremely well under pressure, extremely well in almost trauma-esque situations. I just get very zeroed in and I just kind of know everything that needs to happen. Right. However, when it comes to when everything is just floating around and doing well and we've got our system in place and great, everything is wonderful, I find a considerable amount of anxiety. So there's different components of what your personal emotional intelligence profile looks like, but there's particular areas that we like to look at. So we like to look at well-being, and that includes happiness, your optimism, and your personal self-esteem. We also like to look at self-control, and that's about emotion regulation, your impulse control, your stress management. Then we look at your emotionality, which is about your empathy and your emotion perception and your emotion expression, because how you perceive the emotions of others or emotions around you and how you express those that you're experiencing. And we also look at social ability, which is about emotion management. How are you controlling those emotions when you're interacting with other individuals in certain circumstances and situations? We look at your assertiveness and we look at your social awareness. How well are you able to really read a room? And then when we looked at these independent facets, we talk about adaptability, which is a big one right now with COVID. And then we also talk about motivation, which is something that is extremely important for you to mitigate, especially during COVID. How motivated are you to continue to be propelled within your purpose?
So, and those are the things that I think that have been really, there's a spotlight on those particular ones when you're talking about adaptability, when you're talking about how to relate with coworkers that were coworkers inside of an office. Mm-hmm. Now they're coworkers through Zoom, through phone calls, and so forth, right? What tips do you have for the individual now that has kind of moved? And, we've been in this for several months now. Mm-hmm. So I think that many people may have adapted, but their anxiety is still out there, right? Mm-hmm. There's a Zoom anxiety. There's an anxiety that's been built around constantly people who never looked at themselves in the mirror, but now they're looking at themselves through a video call on a digital mirror, and they're seeing things, they're seeing flaws about themselves from a superficial standpoint, but just many of those things. How do people deal with that? What are your tips for that?
So we definitely have this conversation a lot, but I always started off with when in doubt, go within, right? You need to have a really strong understanding of yourself. You need to have a very strong opportunity to really sit with who you are and be okay with that. And taking that time is okay. We really started doing a lot more when it comes to mindful meditation and just really recognizing how your energy and how your outcomes throughout the day are directly correlated with that energy that you're giving out, right? So the first thing that you have to really do is take that inventory of yourself. What are your triggers? What are the things that are maybe causing you anxiety? What are the things that are potentially contributing to it? Also, what does your home environment look like? I think a lot of times when we have conversations around anxiety or depression, we skip straight to, well, there's something wrong with me. That may be true, but most of the time you can look at your external environment and say, do I have healthy relationships with my spouse and my children? Do I have healthy relationships with my friends? Is my environment clean? Am I organized? Am I structured? Am I keeping to a schedule? Am I eating properly? These are all self-care things that I find people overlook. And for an individual like myself who came from a chronic PTSD diagnosis, it took me a long time to really start to train myself. It required an immense amount of discipline. These things are all coachable. There are certain standards of being that we all are, and I always talk about myself in comparison to my husband. My husband is an engineer and he's very capable of dealing with the finer details of order and precision and the way that he's able to apply logic and reasoning. Whereas on the other side of that, for me, it very much is seeing emotions in an intuitive way. And so the way that we function as counterparts is very powerful. At the same time, it causes a lot of issues with communications that we've had to work through. So being able to take inventory of yourself and really kind of doing the work to understand where your triggers fall, understand what it is throughout the day that you may be preventing yourself, because a lot of us will ask, I'm doing the work, I'm working, why am I not getting the outcome? And we're not actually working in a way that is generating abundance. We are working in a way where we are really exhausting resources and wasting those resources because we don't have them targeted within a schedule, or we don't have them, what is your impact mission? Are you able to shut down and spend time with your family? Are you scheduling your day the same way that you would in the office? Are you taking that quiet time maybe that you need to step away? We have to get to a place where we are the only people that can make the decisions for our lives and what's best for us. And I think that's always scary for most people because, like, what do I know, right? Like, we all know that as human beings, our knowledge is finite. And when we have to take absolute responsibility for the actions and choices, it can be scary for a lot of people. But when you start practicing that hyper accountability, then you're able to really be more firm and more aware when you are interacting with other individuals, because you can start to see that reflection of yourself. The same way that we talk about romantic relationships being a reflection, all of our relationships are a reflection. So the more time that we're able to really sit and kind of outline these things, one of the biggest reasons that we go to psychometric assessments, which is the technology that my company utilizes quite often when we're doing this, we say that it is an insight tool. It is not a decision-making tool. Emotional intelligence can be vast and varied, which is why you have to start internally. You don't want an overly empathetic surgeon when you're on the table. That's not something that you want, because you need someone that can perform under extreme pressure and precision. So when we look at the people that are around us and we wonder, well, why are they not more like me? Why do they not understand? And why are they not emotionally empathetic? You can build on that communication, but you also need to understand that people need to be different in order for us to function within these hierarchies of competency or within these ecosystems within organizations. The skills that you bring to the table is not just about the skills, it's also about the perspective. It's also about the empathy. How are you connecting yourself to innovation and problem solving? And then how are you connecting yourself to potential consumer demographics? Right. I always say that we do what we do very well because we've just doubled down on what we understand and what we execute on. But I absolutely had a time where, my mental health and different things of how I was scheduling my day or my structure was hindering me as an entrepreneur. And when I started changing some of those personal internal habits, it was like butter. It was just like the abundance became, beyond anything that I could have possibly imagined. And I've gotten myself to this place now where I feel like there is absolutely a balance between your own personal ability to, I guess, maintain that peace and composure in circumstances of extreme anxiety, in circumstances of a lot of difficulty. It's something that, if you ever seen, I don't know if y'all remember those clown dolls, the blow up dolls, where if you punch them and then they wobble back and forth. I mean, it's like, I might be showing my age a little bit having this conversation. However, one of the biggest things about that is that you kind of want to look at yourself where when something happens like that, stress or anxiety, instead of it knocking you all the way to the left or knocking you all the way to the right, you're able to kind of maintain a little bit more the center. And for those of us that come from, especially within the diaspora, we are an emotional people. We do have that passion within us. I mean, it's one of the things that make us great. It's one of the things that make us great innovators. It's one of the things that I feel like I love so much about our people globally. At the same time, we do need to start structuring our emotions in a way where they're purposeful. So that's what we've really been trying to do within the professional development realm, is helping people be the best version of themselves, so that they are stronger candidates. Because if your mental health and your own ability to regulate that is not in check, you're not going to see the potential that you have from a professional perspective.
I had as a buddy of mine here in Atlanta, he's a web developer, and he's hired a few of even the candidates we've sent him out of the marketplace, but even through working through his boutique web development company, he's hired other Black and brown developers. And one of the things he's pushed me to even address, even when we are building our community, is to address the social anxiety, right, around operating as a developer. And he was saying that many Black and brown people in tech, they suffer because of the backgrounds. It translates into an anxiety. Now, I have two people here in the chat on the comments. And I know them. They're both developers, and they talk about the fact that one of them expressed that he has a certain level of PTSD as well from some of the trauma that he's experienced. In another instance, he says that he's lacking a lot of those EI skills that are necessary in order to connect, right? And that is important. That's important to be able to communicate. And so one of the things that you do with your technology, and I want you to go into that in a little bit more, in relations to your business and to your company, how does that play and how does that analysis works? And then how do you use that analysis to build up that particular candidate?
Absolutely. So one of the things about me, my academic background is I did a bachelor's of science in economics, and then I also did a minor in computer science, right? So as an economist by academics, data models, being able to prove things, understanding trends, being able to identify these trends and all of these things have always been a passion of mine, because I'm a very intuitive person. I've always been a very intuitive person. But being able to know things intuitively and not having the data to back it will always kind of shut you down in a room, right? I mean, especially when you're talking about corporate America and we're talking about more Eurocentric professional environments, they are not structured from an intuitive standpoint. They want to understand numbers, they want to understand data. So that's understandable, because I believe that the two need to function holistically together, right? So our psychometric assessments, they focus on identifying certain components of the way that you respond in situations. I mean, we use DISC as well, quite extensively, but we use DISC in a way where we create 3 separate graphs. So you have your ideal work model, you have the way that you work under pressure, and then you also have your current work graph, right? So what this does is it shows your work behavior. It essentially explains how you're working and the way that you're working, right? when you see that, we're able to derive all of these insight data. And it's kind of interesting, since we started implementing a lot of this technology, we get candidates that are like, you've known me for 30 minutes and you just like described my entire self, right? It's like a tarot card reading for professionals, but it really is backed in data. It's some very high level human behavioral science that has been put into network analysis softwares and being able to kind of execute upon these different data points. And once again, it's not a decision tool, it is an insight tool. So we utilize it extensively for candidates. We also use it extensively in professional development, and we use it in team building. One of the beautiful things about when we do our PPA psychometrics is that it goes into our database for our applicant tracking system. And we actually build out these positions with our clients. And those positions that we build out with our clients talk about ideal work culture, what components of this particular individual's work behavior will play into your expectations with that particular role. And so we sit down with those hiring managers and we do a much more in-depth evaluation of that position. And then that goes into our database, which we're able to apply against our candidates. And it essentially puts back a star rating. So like a hotel star rating, and, 5 stars the best. And it doesn't necessarily mean that a candidate is not sufficient for that particular job. But what it does help us do in the digital age, where you're getting hundreds, if not thousands of resumes sometimes, is that it really helps us kind of narrow down our particular candidate database to the best positions. And then what's also nice about it is it gives us a lot of feedback and information surrounding how we interview. How do we discuss certain training components when this individual is going in? And an example of that is that if we see somebody who is very, very highly compliant, by preference, that they absolutely need those rules and structure in order to be comfortable within their role or within their position, right? You're able to ask them questions about what they may have done in that interview when they're in an environment where they have less structure, less rigid, compliant requirements or compliancy requirements. And then those are questions that you're able to probe within the interview process. So these are insights that we're able to utilize in a different way. DISC is not new. Neither is a lot of the tools that we use. These are not new technologies. These are not new assessments. What is new is the way in which we utilize them. And I think that that's where we're really innovating from an HR perspective, is that the application of these tools, because once again, a hammer, I mean, you can build a house with it or you can bash somebody's skull in with it, right? And I think that sometimes we don't realize that the tools that we have at our disposal are only as good as the human beings who are utilizing them. So that is, absolutely a good way as well when you are building relationships with clients and understanding how to deal with clients. Sometimes we will even send out those assessments and those DISC assessments before we work with clients, because we want to, just because of course you want to give them a feel for what it is that we're doing, because anybody has to do something in order to really feel like they understand it. But it gives an insight for us as well, because when we're working with that particular client, it's almost like having a cheat sheet. And then the other beautiful thing is aside from the psychometric tools, is these kind of, I like to call them the influence tools, and understanding the influence within your organization. And I'll give you an example of those tools that were used previously in a demo that we did with a company that was about 300 employees. And of those 300 employees, maybe 10% are African American. Out of those 10%, it came back that one of the most influential, if not the most influential individual within their organization was a Black woman. And what that means is that she was acting as a bridge between all of these different islands and all these different hubs within your organization. Because the way that information is shared and the way that people communicate and who they go to when they're stressed out or who they have a problem, it's important for companies to identify that from a retention standpoint. You don't want to lose your best people. And a lot of times we don't necessarily know that it's very easy to find out who your best people are if you're just asking. So it's not so much that these tools are brand new or fancy. It's just about the way that we're utilizing them and the way that we're implementing them. And for anybody who's working remote or anybody who's managing a team that is remote, these are valuable insights on how to manage remote workers, We have different kinds of reports, whether it's sales, whether it's executive leadership. We also have a general intelligence assessment, which measures rate of learning in different component areas, because those are things that sometimes I think we overlook. We have to get away from looking at a piece of paper and an education and a referral and saying, okay, this is how we determine whether or not this candidate is appropriate. We have a different approach to how we engage with our coworkers than we ever did before. You know, they're much more accessible. They're, you know, social media even, and the way that people engage with one another. I mean, this has changed drastically. Before, you know, when it was my father's era, like, you know, you see somebody at your job and you go home and you may not see them again until work, and you may never see them at all unless you run into them who knows where, right? So we've changed the way that we interact as a community, and it's extremely critical for us to be purposeful in the way that we look at diversity. And that's what we've been using these tools for a lot when we're on the client side, because we've had multiple clients, and recently a couple Silicon Valley clients that have come to us and said, we want to be more purposeful about diversity. Well, what does that mean? Because we've got to get away from this checking a box for diversity and inclusion just to be able to, you know, say that you've met these particular thresholds. Because my experiences as a biracial East African Muslim is going to be very different than some, for example, my husband who's African American from Alabama, or, you know, Caribbean background, or we have, you know, some of my colleagues in Toronto that have, you know, been in Toronto in the UK. We are not a monolith as people of color and as Black people. And most of these corporations don't understand that, simply because they don't understand the community. And I can respect and understand that, and to an extent, because, you know, I was raised by my Black father. I wasn't raised by my mother, and so that informed a lot of my experiences. That informed a lot about who I am. And I don't necessarily interact with a lot of European communities, not because I don't want to, just because I live in Atlanta, and then I grew up with my father. And so where we are, you have to understand that I personally look at it like this is your job. So when people say we can't find high level Black candidates, I'm like, that's nonsense. But the anxiety is that they have never had to code switch. We have by necessity had to learn how to code switch. We have by necessity had to learn how to go into these boardrooms and have these different conversations. So that's a skill that the diaspora has been able to develop. And so as we've been able to develop this particular skill, I think that we're in a great position to be cultural translators so that we can get our people into position, so that we can build these economic ecosystems.
You said they don't know how to code switch. So these are the corporations, the clients, the code switching and finding. That's important. You know, because I think you think about code switching, and we all know about code switching. We do it all the time. Consciously or unconsciously. You know, you pick up the phone, you have your customer service voice or whatever you want to say, but that is something to think about. And I wanted to stop you and highlight that companies don't know how to code switch. Employers, HR directors, team leaders, because they need the code switch and being able to find the talent that they need. Because it's not just one. Like you said, we're not a monolith, right? And there are experiences, and many times our experiences, though, culturally, or as a people, as Black people in particular, are different, and they need to be able to switch up their tactics for being able to attract that this type of talent, our type of talent, right? That's
Absolutely. We have to hold hiring managers accountable. We have to hold companies accountable. And one of the things that I love about the tools that we have is that we provide pure data insights, so that as much as I can intuitively provide something to you, I'm also able to give them the facts and figures, which is the language that a lot of them do speak. Now, it was always interesting to me when I kind of hear this, you know, recently, especially, it's interesting how Black Lives Matter has been a bittersweet moment for a lot of us, because it is opening up these dialogues and it is having these conversations, but we're seeing a lot of placating, and we're seeing a lot of commoditization of our suffering and these things that are going on. Now, I bring that up because it's important to highlight how we work with companies and who we work with and the strategic partnerships that we build. It is very important for us to be purposeful on our own, right? They want to speak about being purposeful and hiring diversity. You need to hold people accountable as well, because you see all of these metrics. And it's very interesting because you see all the statistics that talk about all the returns that you could potentially have if, you know, you became more diverse, but they don't understand where those numbers come from, right? And where those numbers come from is identifying innovation and consumer demographics. one of the big things about identifying consumer demographics within the African diaspora, we are a very loyal consumer base. And you know, people laugh when I bring up Hennessy, but Hennessy is a great example. I mean, there is way better cognacs on the market. But one of the things that they have always done and done well is that they've been exactly where they need to be whenever they need to be there, whether it's Afro-Latino or whether it's African-American. They've absolutely been able to code switch as a company, right? They've put people in position that speak the language of their different consumer demographics. So when I have these conversations with these HR people, you know, they're very tone deaf. They're absolutely tone deaf just because they don't necessarily have the experience or the exposure, right? And as much as a lot of us get to this place where you kind of feel fatigued, right? You feel fatigued about constantly having these conversations. What shifts the needle is when we have individuals that look like us in these positions, within these executive positions, or just being able to relate on a very human level and letting people know cross-culturally, it's okay for you to ask a question if you don't understand something. But if you're trying to access a particular consumer demographic, then understand that we, as diverse as we are as the African diaspora, they understand that there's not just one kind of European individual. You understand that there's not just one kind of Hispanic. So I really feel it's important for us to recognize that where that code switching comes in is being able to be humble and respectful of external communities that you have not engaged with, and being open in a way that is authentic, not in a way that is, you know, saying, well, we understand that our, you know, our existence and what happens to us on Twitter, and we could, in this cancel culture, that's not the right way to approach it. You want to approach it from a way where your stories are really connecting and you're finding that crossover. So when you're dealing with other colleagues or people within your office, or you're dealing with other clients, always finding that place where you guys intersect that. For me, it's always family is the first place that I look, because, you know, we all want to feed our family. We all have a drive and a desire for our children and the people that we love to be well. And the way that you're able, especially as diverse, visible, minority, BIPOC, POC freelancers or contract workers, remote workers, or just even if you are in your company and you are working remote, where you have an advantage is being able to talk about yourself and your experiences and the things that you enjoy, and being able to have these conversations, and also highlighting your community and things that go on in your community and things that, you know, you feel like are missing. There are problems or there are not access points. There's a lot of opportunity for us right now to drive impact while also driving a dollar, because there are the budgets that are there, and do not be afraid to ask for what you're worth. I went through heavy imposter syndrome. I understand what that feels like. I understand, you know, how it's like a, do I belong here? You know, I'm actually doing this talk from, you know, my home city. I'm in Dykeman, New York. I'm Washington Heights, Uptown, and coming from this particular neighborhood, I really questioned my ability to step into these corporate boardrooms. Mm-hmm. And then also the background that I had was not necessarily traditional. I went to an HBCU for a couple of years, and then I got married, and then I went home, and then I was in Canada. So what ended up happening for me was I developed a deep insecurity, and I almost couldn't go into these places and feel like I belonged there. But I really worked through that. I really, really worked through that. You have to work through it. You have to recognize and understand the importance of all of those experiences that you feel like make you less than. They actually make you more. They actually bring something to the table that these people may never have thought even existed. So right. For us silencing our voices or feeling like, you know, these are things that make us less than, they're not. They're just a component of your human experience that you bring to the table, because there is a whole world out there of people that have been in similar circumstances and situations that may relate to you. So you've got to get over that hump. You've got to deal with the insecurities that are programmed into us because the corporate culture was not necessarily built for us. A lot of us struggle with this. And then, you know, we have different nuances. Like, you know, there's different things that are going to come up. That's why I say, when in doubt, go within. What are the things that you have experienced in your life that are maybe causing you to hinder your advancement? What is it about those in those particular situations? Because we've got to get real and have these conversations, because when we talk about emotional intelligence, it's a holistic thing, and it's going to require the community bringing forward their experiences and the different components of what they've been through in a way that's healthy, where it's not struggle Olympics, my situation was worse than yours, or your situation, where we can genuinely share with one another, because there's going to be components of your experience that is going to add value. And so if you start looking at yourself that way when you walk into these boardrooms, that imposter syndrome starts to go away, because you recognize that you just have a whole new set of tools that they didn't have.
Looking at the comments,
Right.
it looks like we need to have a topic on exclusively on code switching. It is amazing. And literally, though, I would tell you, and I'm going to restate just to go back to that. I've never thought about it. The fact I think about message and messenger all the time. I was on a call with the president of Accelerprise, which is a VC firm, and they are a accelerator as well. And I was one of the things we were talking about was the inclusion as a whole.
Right.
And he told me that, we like what you're doing, but we wouldn't probably accept you into one of our accelerators because we're building out an internal platform, whatever they thought that we were doing, they were doing something similar. And they were pretty sure that they could attract diverse talent. That's exactly what he said. This white man was saying that runs Accelerprise, and I'm on social media. Who cares? Anyway, and I'm putting him out there. He said that we could address diversity the way we do it, and I told him it's not true. What Yelp has done with Black Lives Matter, where they can now identify a company based on whether it's a Black-owned business, that's great. That's a great gesture, but it's all about building up the message and the messengers from the ground up. It's all about doing it from the ground up. And so from our side, for these companies, they have to understand that. They have to understand that part of code switching is also making sure that the code is embedded, meaning the people are embedded, right?
Absolutely.
And those are the messengers that are going to be able to go out and find the talent and connect with the talent and interact with these Black people and brown people, people of color, as well as by having the code embedded in their system already.
And
that's switching to it.
And that's the biggest problem. And I've had this conversation with some of my peers. We have quite frequently had this conversation. Quite a few of my friends are in high level branding, and it's been very interesting to see kind of the way that messaging is being utilized and the way that this consumer behavioral psychology is being utilized. And if you do not have those people in the room telling you this is probably not a good idea, I've seen more than a few circumstances over the last couple of months where I was like, so you just have nobody Black in your office, huh?
Smile and break the chains.
Right. And so it's important that you, and my thing is this, we have to be purposeful, right? I love what Donna was talking about having that vision and that purpose. It's very important because you need to understand that we are in a place now where we have to identify community based on shared values. Okay. It's not as easy as like when my father came here in 65 and, he was at Howard and he kind of was able to identify like, oh, these are my people. Or we're in a very different state of society, just globally. I mean, it's very different. So it's important for us to talk about diversity, but it's also important for us to talk about shared values. So what your values are as a company and what the expectation and the message is that you're trying to get out there. Most of us can tell when something is disingenuous. I mean, that's kind of a skill that I think that intuitively as a community we've developed. We know when something is being commoditized versus when it's an authentic engagement, right? And so you see that in the brand. And sometimes I wonder just what some of these larger corporations are thinking when they make some of these decisions. But I realize one of the things that may be happening is that they're engaging with a particular socioeconomic status within the Black community, right? And that particular socioeconomic status, they look at it like they are supposed to know the same exact thing, you know, where myself and my peers that grew up in the projects in New York versus where my niece grew up around Black excellence in Atlanta. Her father's an attorney. You know, the school that she went to, I mean, she's known nothing but that. So her experience is different based on that particular socioeconomic accessibility. So what happens is sometimes is that you get socioeconomic access, and so somebody comes through the door that they may assume because they look like that particular demographic that they also have the same understanding of the behaviors and of the cultural impact and the cultural influence. That's not always true, right? It's extremely important that they recognize and understand that you're not going to just blanket your message, right? And that's where we're seeing some of these issues. So for me, things that you guys are doing, what we're doing on our side with a lot of the skills training and the upskilling and providing these scholarship programs to these HBCU candidates that we have that are for specific skills training, or creating these upskilling opportunities. You know, we have to really talk about socioeconomic diversity within the Black community, and we also need to talk about what that means and access and how important it is. And we don't talk about that enough.
We're gonna have to have a whole nother conversation. Eb, I'm sorry, Eb, I know we took it on.
So you've hit a lot of stuff, and even coming from corporate America, I've seen it myself. You know, I remember always getting into trouble because I was a person that fought for the people that are there for 20, 30 years. And it's like you're conditioning them to be stuck in the same spot, and you're treating them as if they can't excel. You know what I mean? And we talk about imposter syndrome, and I always go back to who told you couldn't do it? Or was it just perceived that by someone else's actions, you automatically felt that you couldn't do it?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I would tell anybody, you can have the average millionaire standing in a room with $1 million bill in his pocket, but he has low self-esteem. And I can sit at the board table with better self-esteem than he does. Absolutely. Because he wants to flaunt it. Because at the end of the day, I don't owe him nothing and he doesn't owe me nothing.
And Eb, you really just highlighted exactly what that foundational concept of emotional intelligence is.
Right.
What do you know about yourself that is a skill that makes it important for you to be at that table, and how does that translate that way?
Right. But to your point about, you know, the difference of societies and everything else, even in our own communities, we have this, I mean, we have some of us that are the uppity, like, oh, I'm too good for this. Oh, I can't go give back. And even there were times where I had to take Marta to work, you know, here in Atlanta. And there was just certain things that I would see grown men. And it's like, I got the aha moment that I never really could assume that they were taught the same thing I was.
Absolutely.
Now, how am I going to humble myself to not project my expectations on this person? Because he may have never been taught. He may have been taught, oh, walking around with, you know, pants sagging and whatever else. That may have what he has been brought up with, even at the age of 45. And someone younger needs to turn around and say, okay, let me look at it this way. If a dog is taught to be a dog, he's going to act like a dog. If a cat is taught to act like a dog, that cat is going to, you see what I'm saying? So even going back to corporate America and everything else, there are so many reasons why we have to really know our worth. And you said it. That's why I always say, look at your skill assessment, throw out the title. Because Absolutely. You can have your CEO, you can have your COO, and they know jack. They're making money off of you. And again, don't get cocky, but have the boastfulness and the confidence to say that I know that I'm bringing you your quarterly bonuses.
I apologize for cutting you off.
That's fine.
I was just going to say we deal with three things predominantly within, as far as our values within our company, and that's about humility, accountability, and respect.
Right.
Those are the three most important things. A lot of times, and especially in Western culture, we look at humility as being something that means that we're less than. That's not what humility and the approach that we personally take, or I was taught. It's to understand that what we know nothing. What we know, we can still know more. And if we always approach learning and culture and community and other people from a place of humility, that doesn't mean that you're silencing yourself. You need to know what you're worth. And that also falls into accountability as well. You're being accountable for what you need in order to feel fulfilled within the work that you're doing, because that's critical as well. Not enough Black women will negotiate their salaries. This is a conversation that my girlfriends and I have been having quite frequently. You know, you need to be able to feel that confidence in your value, right? And you need to ask yourself, what is the trade-off? Like, maybe you'll lose this job. And if you do lose this job, what does that mean? What is your recourse? Are you constantly thinking about what the potential outcome is, but are you moving in your purpose, and are you being true to what you feel like you need in order for you to be most effective? That's whether it's a client, whether it's an employer, whether it's your peer group. We reach back all the time. But one thing that we don't do is we don't exhaust energy on people who are not able to exhibit the humility to say, I can learn more. I learn more from my staff every day. I learn more from my children every day. I try to operate from that perspective where I can go in and kind of, you know, take those things, but I also stand firm in my values. And so that's how I'm able to kind of move forward.
Right. And definitely. So George made a comment, and I'm going to comment on that because he hit it on the nose. But that's what you said about assessments. I love the DISC assessment, communication assessment. And even now, it's really one of those things of whoever's listening to this now, whoever's listening to this after the fact, there are so many assessments out there that you can take yourself to empower yourself. Because the more you know about yourself, the more you can literally set boundaries when it comes to people that think that they can take advantage of you or impose on you certain things that they think they can, when really you're like, nah, you know, this is who I really am. Even now, go ahead.
And being honest with yourself about what you actually know.
Definitely. And not only that, but being honest of what you have to grow into. Because again, you don't know all of it. But what are we lacking, which I call areas of growth that we need to identify. So all of our boot camps, everybody thought that they was going to come in on a call and chill. Before you can even get to the boot camp, you have to go through assessments. You have to answer questions. And everybody's like, dang, I didn't realize how much work I'd have to put into this. And I told them, I said, just because Incluzion is rolling something out, we're not going to do it half-assed. We're not going to do it halfway or whatever else to be like, this is the reason why we can say that we're different coming to the table.
Absolutely. And we need, and our byline has always been powering competent diversity, right? Yeah. The reason that we say that is because we need these hierarchies of competency within our society in order for it to function, and from a structural standpoint, for us to innovate and continue to be the best of ourselves, right? So when you're doing those types of assessments and you're looking at, okay, let me go inward, I also want to reiterate, especially for those of you who are contingency workforce or contractors, what does it mean to be an expert? What does it really mean to know what you do and that you are able to do it well? And I always approach it that threefold: knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And the example that I use is that you can know something. So I could go to the library and I could learn about how to perform open heart surgery, but just because I read it in the book, do you want me to perform open heart surgery on you after I came and read this book? You know, so you need to know. You also need to understand the material. So you need to be able to really internalize what it is that you know in a way where you can output it in the appropriate way. And then the wisdom is really about the experience. So whether that's from mentorship that you're receiving that, whether it's from hands-on. So when you're looking at what your skill set is and when you look at what you bring to the table, how much time are you reinvesting into really being an expert in what you do? And I think that that's something that we really need to just kind of like hold ourselves accountable, because we want to be the best. Don't burn yourself out, but be realistic and be aware of how important that value is, because you have no idea the problems that you're going to solve just by existing in your purpose.
Right. And not only that, to me, is just being intentional about how you're spending your time, because we say that it takes 10,000 hours to master something. But in all honesty, everybody that sits on boot camps with me and had conversations, I'm like, yo, what are you doing with your toilet time? Like, if you're sitting on the toilet for 10 minutes, and Jabril knows, that's why he's laughing. If you're sitting on the toilet for 10 minutes, instead of scrolling through social media, giving everybody else hype, because the moment you log on, somebody's making millions just for you logging on, and you ain't seeing none of that money. But if you're sitting on the toilet it's like, okay, let me read about this, or let me watch this YouTube video, or whatever. I don't expect for you to make cupcakes while you sit on the toilet, but if you want to learn how to make cupcakes, then so be it. Look at that YouTube video on how to do it.
I started being way more purposeful about the way that I use social media. That was something that I definitely had to get a gauge on. At one point in time, you know, I had quite a large, I guess, influencer following. But for me, because of the platform that it was Instagram, it didn't feel like it felt like it wasn't engaging. Like it wasn't serving purpose. And so there's a difference between people who are just watching you and people who are actually really understanding what you bring to the table. Because social media has just given us like a snippet of reality, and it takes so much work. The work that I know you guys have put into everything that you're doing, the work from a structural component of how we've built the business and made sure that we are prepared to be able to scale, to be able to take it to the next level. These are things that we've got to think about from day one. And it's not always feasible within your particular emotional bandwidth or even your time. I always tell my clients about time banks, right? Like, how many hours do you need to sleep? How many hours do you spend with your children? How many hours are you eating? How many hours are left over in a day? How much time are you spending on Netflix? Sometimes we just aren't aware. And, you know, and I turned on my screen time and I started like, okay, well, how much time am I spending here and for what is the purpose? So when you start to get more aware and more in your body and more just grounded within, okay, live by my calendar, because you're not beholden to the schedule, but what you need to do is do a schedule that looks like the day that you want to have, right? Think about that, because when I send my schedule to my husband, I'm not just putting in what I've got on the calendar for my business meetings. I'm also putting on the calendar the time that I'm spending with my children, the time that I got to go here, the time that, you know, we put all of that into our calendars because we want to be very purposeful with our time, because when we're not, then things get overlooked. And then that's where resentment starts to build. And we all are probably guilty of that at some point.
But that goes back to what have we been surrounded by and what have we been taught? Because again, it's no different than money. If I'm a single parent, but I see the value of spending $300 on a pair of sneakers for my kid, nah, boo, you need that $300 to go towards rent. Not to brag about the fact that you just bought your kid a pair of Jordans that he's gonna grow out of in 3 months.
Absolutely.
And you know me, not putting anybody to shame, but where is our priorities? You know, where are our priorities put?
And to speak to that, one of the things that I think, and I say this to my children all the time, and I say this to my mentees all the time, I say, you know, less outrage for what we would like it to be and more wisdom for what is, right? So one of the best approaches in that is really letting people see, and when they're ready to engage with the material, right? And when we can kind of shake the reality of our community, and we do it in a way where we talk about what's going to happen to Black and brown communities when automation really, really hits, and what is that going to do? And realistically, from an economic standpoint, what does this mean? And then we also talk about, you know, our families and our relationships and how healthy our relationships are. Two-parent households is not just about the fact that it's like a social thing. Two-parent households is about economics. It's about access. So we need to start looking at the reasons and the purpose behind the things that we're doing, as much as we are actually just kind of looking at it for face value. Because you're right, Evie, like, we've been trained and conditioned to just do. And it's been so systemic, and it's been such a, it's been a very quick but slow, you know, instant gratification that we've all fallen into.
Right.
You know, I've started, you know, turning off my GPS when I'm going places because I want to remember where I'm going. You know, when I moved to Atlanta, people laugh at me because I used to spend, you know, my weekends and I was driving Lyft, and they're like, why would you do this? You've got other stuff you should be doing. And I was like, I need to learn the city. I want to know where's the city. I want to talk to people. I want to get to know. I want to understand. This is the, you know, I'm coming from New York. It's a completely different thing. And I did that from a perspective of I don't believe that there's any such thing as, you know, a job that anybody should be ashamed of. I think that anybody that is trying to provide for their children, or they have a purpose behind the way that they're spending their time, or, you know, there's no shame in that. And I think our community needs to get away from this idea that, you know, what you do is what makes you amazing. No, you will do amazing things once you understand that you are amazing. And there is absolutely all the respect in the world to women, fathers, single fathers. I was raised by a single Black father. These are narratives that we have to understand. It is about the character of the individual, and understand that you are not defined by these things. What you are defined by is how willing are you to support the people that you love, to make sure that they got a roof over their head, to make sure that they are well fed. And
Right.
a lot of us are doing contingency workforce or started companies so that we could be more purposeful with our families. Because for me, that was always the reason that I wanted to be able to go and pick up my daughter when she's sick at school, or, you know, I wanted to make sure that that was a priority. And I understand that that's a privilege, but it's not out of reach anymore. And
Right.
I would really like for us to continue, you know, working with individuals like yourself, presenting these upskilling, really connecting to these communities and being able to make these things more accessible so that they can see, you know, you are absolutely able and capable of picking up that computer and earning just as much as what you did when you were working those double shifts. And you can be home.
Exactly. And so, quick plug, we are having our next boot camp on teaching people how to be virtual assistants. We then flipped it to say virtual specialists, only because we have a lot of people in our community that, again, are so stuck on that title. And I'm like, no, if you know how to build a website, go after the coaches that are, you know, doing online summits. If you know how to do graphic design, go after the small business owner that is really wanting to beef up their branding. You don't have to be the expert. Again, it's a skill that you have.
Absolutely.
And, you know, as you said, going to what George said, he says one of the first places we need to start is defining our own code. For example, they cold call us Black. Show me a Black person on this chat. And he's real, because even before all of this happened, I'm like, at the end of the day, who said we were who we were?
And so can I give you an interesting perspective? Because, like, as a continental African, like, I have this conversation all the time. I say, like, and I would even extend this, even it would be Jabril, myself, maybe even you, EB. It just depends on where you be at. But if you go to certain places like South Africa, you're in Kenya, they're calling us colored. They're not calling us Black, right? I mean, even my father, you know, based on his complexion, you know, but in America, he came here, he's a Black man here. Now, what he did, which is very different than what you hear from a lot of continental Africans, is that he said, what does it mean for me to be Black in America? What does this mean here? And he really wanted to understand the American community. So we were raised knowing that the access and the opportunities that we had here was based off of the sacrifices that were made by the African American community. So we were given that insight and awareness, right? But we also understood that when we went back to the continent, or we were in the Caribbean, or wherever it was that we were at, you know, we saw it as different. And then even if you go back to the Arabic language, and all the way back where they weren't calling Black people Black, they were calling Black people white, because the light would shine off of the skin in a brilliant, in a beautiful way, right? So I agree. We've got to understand, how do we identify ourselves, and how do we want to be identified, or where do we fall in? And having those types of cross-cultural conversations within the diaspora is just going to continue to expand our opportunity and make connections abroad for ourselves, for our children, and to continue to build generational wealth that way by building those economic ecosystems.
Right. So in all of this, I would definitely encourage people to visit Hawa's website, because there's so many things that you can grasp and hold on to, from emotional intelligence to knowing your worth to a whole lot of other stuff. And we deal with this in the community. Imposter syndrome, definitely. And I'll be the first one to say, you know, I only have a high school diploma. Did I go to college? Yep. Did not finish, because I knew my temperament and my patience for sitting in the classroom. That's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of toilet time. It was a lot of YouTube. It was a whole lot of stuff that got me to where
YouTube University is the best, right? I mean, I'll tell you what.
And again, it goes back to, because my heart is for the people that feel as if they're less than. And
Absolutely.
it's like, you should not feel that way. You're alive for a reason. You have a purpose for a reason.
Absolutely.
You're on you. If anything, give yourself a high five, because you're taking time out again to learn about something different, to really work on your areas of growth. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to social media and all this other stuff, I would have to be the one to say, if you can go on a social media fast for 30 days, see how different your life would be. Like, real talk.
That's what I
because
did. I did that during one Ramadan one year. That's exactly what I did. You know, and you'd be surprised. Like sometimes it's exactly what it is. You just got to reset. You know,
I'm gonna have to try that during a Ramadan one year, but whew, it's been hard not to.
And I mean, I'm just loving it. I really hope that we can have more of these conversations. You know, again, I encourage everyone to reach out to you personally to see what you're about.
Absolutely, please.
These are the things that we need to see, that it's okay to have these conversations. And yeah, give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself a high five, because you have the skill set. Again, better than any millionaire that may have just had help get him where he is.
And remember, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So
yeah.
That's always and forever going to be the truth. And I just appreciate so much what you guys are doing. And you already know you have my full support, and we will continue to just get that message out there. And the more that we can create these access points of building wealth and just also fulfillment and purpose that you get from, you know, having a career where you really, you know, okay, I love what I'm doing, and this is really working for me. So I appreciate you guys letting me talk for so long and have this dialogue and impart all of this. And anybody that would like to get in contact with me, by all means, you can go to our website. We are doing a revamp over the next little while, but it is absolutely there to be a resource in any capacity, most definitely.
Okay, so Bernard said he says he would love to do the whole social media fast, but he has to manage. And you know what?
That's the thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it. And there are times where, and you have to have that focus that if you're just posting to social media for your clients, that's it. You're not engaging on your personal timeline. You're not, you know, going to sneak over to see what so-and-so is doing or reading the you can get lost in comments for like a good 30 minutes, like for real.
That's exactly it. Like I've gone into a couple of social media black holes where I'm just like, where can I end up at? And then you click on that, and I'm on, like, Twitter is my baby, right? Like I love Twitter because Twitter, I can get whatever little things that I need. I can be as woke as I want on Twitter, but I can be on the other side of things. I can, whatever it is that I need to get, I can get on Twitter. But sometimes you click on that one comment and you don't even realize that the rest of your day is gone because you just went through that entire rabbit hole and you try. But it's also an interesting, you know what is good for Twitter is for people who are looking for opposing viewpoints. I think it's important for us to engage more with people who think differently than we do in a way that is respectful and insightful, right? I mean, of course, Twitter is maybe not the environment for that, but one thing that it is good is that just think about that. Think about the fact that you don't agree with this individual, but what are you learning? Because you learn way more from somebody who doesn't agree with you than you do from somebody who's going to repeat back the same thing.
Right.
Exactly.
Jabril knows about that.
I know. Look, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, but Twitter is my baby too. I've switched from time to time, and this was Facebook. It was LinkedIn. Twitter is where it's at. If you're not on Twitter making moves and getting stuff to happen, get on Twitter. Okay. So, Hawa, it was great having you. This was a very insightful conversation. And I know we we expanded beyond emotional intelligence. I think all of it wraps still into emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
Great conversation. I appreciate you having you on. And I put your website up. Do you want to drop your social media, your Twitter handle real quick, or? So
my Twitter is A Conscious Thought. So conscious, and then it's THOT because we enjoy play on words, and I always say that the brand is about evolution.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that is my Twitter handle. And one of the things that I would really like to implore everybody who's been listening is get outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. Look at the people that maybe are within your organization or that your clients and you're working with. And instead of looking at it from, oh, this person frustrates me, or I don't understand why they do this, or I don't, start reapproaching the way that you view people and what your initial, opinion of somebody may be, and start kind of delving in more and asking more questions about why people may behave the way that they do. The more that you can gain insight into those kinds of things, it changes your perspective, because the qualities that I've seen in some people that feel like they've been written off by society have been some of my best people. So always take that into consideration as well.
Well, once again, it was great having you on. I mean, lots of words of wisdom. I'm going to throw your Twitter handle up there really quickly so that people can follow you on Twitter as well. Much success to you. We're going to be coordinating with you offline outside of this as well.
Most definitely.
Thanks a lot, Hawa.
Thank you. You guys take care.
Good one.
That was amazing.
3-day conference. I'm telling you.
3-day conference. FlexCon 3-day. I mean, we're going to have so many topics, so many discussions as soon as we find the bandwidth to do that, right?
Right. So I'm loving the comments. I'm loving everyone who is engaging. Again, we do this because we want to connect with you. We do this because we know that what else can we be doing today? Like, if you're really social distancing, what else can you really be doing today?
If you're really social distancing, what else?
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, and if anything, I didn't go to the grocery store at all this week. I just did Instacart this morning. So it's just like, the tools are out there. And, I know, again, it can be gruesome because some people that are like the really people-oriented person, they're like, I have to be in front of people, but find those creative ways. The introverts, they're like, yes, So it's just very interesting. So what have your thoughts been for the past few months?
Look, this, we're in the trenches. We're grinding. We're building out a full-fledged ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm very happy at the place in where we're at right now, where we can service flexible talent in a freelance capacity through the freelance marketplace. And we can service people looking for jobs in a remote professional, in a remote capacity, right? And so, who are our clients? Our clients are you, the talent, the candidates, the diverse professionals that are out there that are serving in multiple ways, serving up their skill sets. On the other hand, it's those clients. Those clients are those hiring managers, team leaders,
right?
People that are in the decision-making, in that decision-making position of hiring, who wants to access diverse talent. So we've added on, initially, we've provided that functionality, specifically for smaller companies. I owned a small company, small tech company before this, and I was very much dependent on the freelance professional. So we have that ecosystem, we have that infrastructure in place. But now companies, larger companies, the team leaders, the HR managers, through our remote jobs board, we can now connect you with our pipeline, our network of professionals who are looking for that longer term engagement, much more so than just a freelance project to work on, right?
Right.
In many cases, that's a lot of people, and when we talk about, that's why FlexCon is about that flexible professional that can operate in any capacity, whether it's a 1-year contract-based engagement or whether it's a 1-month project. They can work in both of those capacities. And so I feel good about being in that place and bringing in that last piece. And we talked about it earlier, inclusion learning. So if you go to learn.inclusion, let me type it out here.
Yes.
Learn.inclusion.co. Let's pop it up on the screen really quickly. Learn.inclusion.co. That is our new learning platform. It's a crowd-sourced learning platform, similar to Udemy.
Right.
You can come in and you can create a course. The course is, yes, you could come in and teach a web developer an entire full stack course through this.
Right.
That's not necessarily our goal. It isn't to teach hard skills. It's to teach those soft skills. It's to provide coursework around those 8 core categories that we have listed on the site that are soft skills that will empower you to be better in whatever remote capacity that you're working, whether it's a freelancer, whether it's an independent contractor, whether it's a consultant, or whether it's a work from home professional or someone that's working as part of a distributed team.
Right.
We want to be able to empower you with the skill sets needed to excel, not at what you do specifically, but the ways you do it, right? So I'm in a very happy place right now with this.
So going back really quick to the job boards really quick, because I don't want to skip over that. I want everyone to understand that we are just not doing this to stack numbers. And when I say that, we are literally looking at every post that comes in. And if we feel that they trying to pay you too low, we're like, because it's still really one of those things of ensuring that you are not getting pimped out, for one, and also looking at what does this look like long-term for you as a freelancer, remote worker, whatever that is, of making sure that you have sustainability in what you want to do to, of what you love doing. And then going into the learning portal, we're not stacking that with instructors either. We're going through a full-fledged vetting process. And if it's one of those things of, I'm looking at them mainly and knowing who I've been dealing with in the community and, just the messaging and private messaging on the phone, I'm looking at every single one of them. And if I feel that they're not going to bring value, or if they're just trying to get a quick buck because, they're trying to bring you the foo-foo, they automatically get kicked out. And these are the things that we're taking the extra time to do, to be your advocate, to make sure that we're standing in the gap for you, because we're on the front line seeing certain things coming in. And we don't want you to ever feel as if, oh, they're just trying to stack numbers or whatever. And not to say that you're feeling that way, but just putting it out there. This is the reason why we need to duplicate ourselves, because there's so much going on behind the scenes to make sure that we're not only just bringing you a quality product, but also helping you form those quality relationships.
Exactly. And one more point on the jobs board. If you are a team leader, if you're a hiring manager, if you're a person who has a job that is truly remote, not one of these jobs that, you're remote for right now and you're pulling people back in, that's not the way the industry is going. So I've had a few of those conversations already where, we're hiring someone and they're going to be transitioning back. Unfortunately, we don't facilitate those type of posts.
Right.
The jobs board. This is for truly remote work, right? And that's where it's going. That's where it was accelerating to anyway. But I mean, now it's just the thrusters on, right? Because of COVID. We don't anticipate that changing. So talk to the people who are determining whether or not these jobs are going to be remote or not. And if you're not in that position, but you can get in the ear of that person and explain to them that, look, this isn't the case, then please talk to them and get the job posted on Incluzion, because, ultimately we want to distribute that opportunity throughout our network. We want you to post your job, of course, on Indeed still, or whatever main job site that you are automatically posting through your ATS. But we want you to post it on Incluzion also, because that provides that additional visibility to the over 10 communities, over the 15,000 social media contacts that we have, through the thousands of followers on our newsletter and Slack channel and so forth. We want to be able to get that opportunity out there to our network.
Right. So with that, join us on the community at incluzion.co. You can see, or actually incluzion.co has gotten an uplift or a facelift, which I'm very excited about. It can connect you to our Slack community. It can connect you to our learning platform. You can also see a whole lot of events that we're going to be popping up there. And again, it's one of those things of putting you in the place of connection. And I know that a lot of us feel as if we're on our own island. We feel isolated. Put yourself out there. Like, you have nothing to lose. Well, the only thing that I do say that you have to lose is control and your comfort zone. And those are two things that we don't want to lose, because it's like, oh, if I show, myself being vulnerable or whatever else, what do you have to you never know who you talk to can be the next person to connect you with so-and-so, or to help you upskill or whatever else. So you're only damaging yourself or damaging the potential of what can come your way. Or, I always say, you don't block your blessings. You don't know who is going to help you. And the crazy thing is like, we say we don't like people, but in all honesty, there's a lot of things that we need to get from people, whether it's the connection, the paycheck, or whatever. I mean, people are always involved. So maybe find the people that you do like. And, I saw in some of the comments that, there are some clients that are giving you issues or whatever else. We went through a boot camp 2 weeks ago, and I put everybody through the exercise of, who is your ideal client? Don't just be dealing with a client just because they're willing to pay you. If you know this is not your ideal client and it's available on the learning portal, just sign up for the boot camp and you can have access to it. It takes you the steps of really identifying who your ideal client is. Mm-hmm. This is the time to do it, because once COVID finally goes away, whenever that is, you'll have more of an advantage. You said what?
2025.
No. I do not accept that.
I'm not saying it. I'm not being funny. I know I said it with a smirk, but I mean, literally, this is going to be a long-lasting impact. Unfortunately, that changes so many things, and a lot of people don't want to hear that, but unfortunately, that's going to be the case.
Well, you have 4 years to get yourself together.
No, you have to get yourself together now, because this is important now, because this changed, and it will forever be changed. Unfortunately, it's gonna be years before I think that we get back to some type of normalcy, and unfortunately, right. And so with that, but we're gonna be here to continue to provide that ecosystem, for you to learn, the boot camps, the learning. So we have FlexCon September. Am I right? July, skip the month. September, right? So George said, now, get it done now. You need to learn now. You're right, George. So FlexCon September, of course. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to have a powwow to make sure that we have speakers lined up for that. We are looking to bring on additional team members as well, someone to help coordinate with FlexCon and help get the word out there as well. So if you're interested, throw your hat into the circle.
Email me. Just email me your resume. If you don't have a resume, just say, this is what I know how to do, and we'll have a conversation. I do not want you not having a resume to stop you from doing what you love. If you're an event planner and you love putting stuff together, just send me, hey, this, and of course I'm going to ask you some questions to really see, if you're really an event planner. But we're also all about helping you learn as well, because it's not as if, again, that you have to come in with the 10,000 hours of mastery, but it's really one of those things of, what is it that you know, and what is it that we can help you learn? Because if it's the things that you don't know and we can help you learn it, or you can, we can reach out to our network to say, hey, can you help so-and-so? We're all about sharing knowledge. We're all about helping each other. So it's not as if, and we're also all about helping give out work, because as you can see, we are only 3 people of a team and really, really need the assistance to do that out there. And going to your point, Jabril, we will be doing FlexCon every other month. We do have some potential speakers lined up that we will talk about, as Jabril said. But going into the month of August, I'm like, what other boot camps do y'all want to have? Because we did a full-fledged 4 weeks. Once July is over, we would have had done 4 weeks of 2 hours of training. Sometimes it goes into 2.5 hours, but it's well worth it. And again, the relationships that are being forged, the conversations that are being had, the imposter syndrome that is being dealt with, it's so much going on within 2.5 hours that we really want to extend this to be on a regular basis. So we want to hear from you. What other stuff do you want to learn? If it's something specific like coding or whatever else, yes, we will find the people to do that. If it's something like emotional IQ or purpose development, we have plenty of material that we can cover on that, and just have conversations, because sometimes you get your aha moments in the midst of conversation. Again, dialogue with another person. This is the reason why we're pushing you to have conversations. So I'm really looking forward to it. Can't hear you.
Hey, you're on mute.
I can't hear you.
Etiquette number 101, right? So look, I agree with everything you said. I mean, this has been a great July conference. The speakers were amazing. One thing with the job board is we are building out an affiliate program with the jobs board. So that is important. So if you want to make some extra money by getting people to HR leads and team leads and HR personnel, hiring leads to post on the job board,
Right.
then definitely stay tuned for that as well.
We're building a program for the Learning Portal.
We have an affiliate program for the Learning Portal as well that we are rolling out also. So everything that we do, we are trying to create a situation. It's all about empowering you as well, right? We're growing an ecosystem that empowers, provides economic empowerment to you. And so that means building out an ecosystem, but it takes a concerted effort to do that, right? It takes money. So, you know, we're going to get our back around to the point where we're going to be doing fundraising again eventually. So anyone out there that's in the angel space, in the investment space, we'd love to be able to talk to you as well.
Give us $1 million check and say no strings attached. We're good. Like, like why? It's a gift. Accept the gift.
So look, that's a dream that I'm gonna keep dreaming.
You know what? You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
So we have a lot of stuff that we're putting together. We want to say that we're the Google Apps of right now, of diverse talent in the fashion that we're covering so many aspects, and we're providing these multiple tools that are in place that supports the diverse remote professional, right? So we're here. Reach out to us, join the Slack.
Yes.
Come onto the website, go to inclusion.co, inclusion.com. I have both of the domains. Definitely check us out. Be involved in the process. We want you involved in the process. And I don't have anything else to say. It's Sunday.
I know. I'm ready for the next
my daughter, and we're gonna go and play badminton. I promise.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So enjoy the rest of your evening, afternoon, wherever you are. I know that we have people from all over the world watching us, so I'm very appreciative that if it is 3 o'clock in the morning where you are, that you have stayed up with us. So I really love the fact that people like to invest in themselves. But as Jabril said, we are here for you. We are here to walk this journey with you. You're not alone. And for those that may just be having that moment of like, I just need a chat, we're good for it. So yeah. I'll put my calendar out there in the community where everyone can have access to it. If you click on my profile in the community on Slack, it does point you to my calendar. So just schedule time. You don't have to have a good reason. Just say that you want to chat and we're good.
We're great. Thanks everyone for watching. This is FlexCon July.
Yes.
Signing off to you all. You see the little shadow back there. That's my daughter running around back there because she's getting antsy. So we will see you all soon in all the other social media.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.